Hello, friends. Welcome to the Jack Benny television show. I'm John Henderson from the podcast This Day in Jack Benny. With me today, I have Kathy Fuller-Seeley, the author of Jack Benny and the Golden Age of American Radio Comedy, which I just got in the mail. We also have Terry Phillips from Imagine Air Theater and Buck Benny. Buck Benny is the host of the YouTube channel that you can watch this video on. You can see the video of the Jack Benny TV show. And he's also the host of my rival podcast, Jack Benny and OTR Podcast. So, Buck, let's start with you. We're talking about the episode of the Jack Benny TV show from November 20th, 1955.
Are we? Yes. Well, I will say this. I loved seeing our friend Johnny Carson, very young Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting episode in that it has a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's a real hodgepodge. My guess is that Jack sort of saw Johnny's bits and were like, hey, Johnny takes a lot of my stuff. So he's like, oh, that'll be fun to play off of. So we'll do that. And he wrote it as like a scene, and that's kind of it. But I thought it was a great episode. Just awesome to see the interaction between a very young Johnny and Jack. And
yeah,
that was the cornerstone of the episode and the best part of the episode, even though it's kind of just the middle.
When you look at Johnny Carson, like I've seen episodes from his black and white era, and he looks exactly the same except for like the color of his hair for decades and decades. And I thought, well, he always looked exactly the same. But watching this episode, this is even earlier. I think the earliest ones I'd seen were from the 60s. This is 5 years earlier. And just the way that he still looks like Johnny, but he looks so much younger in this episode. So it's amazing how young he started at.
And I'll throw out, too, that he had his own show, which they mentioned. It's a variety type show, a monologue for sure. My favorite parts are the monologues. Well, Johnny's always been great at monologues.
Yeah.
So, but it's just funny how much it feels like Jack's show just done with a younger guy. But
critics of radio and television, John Crosby especially, loved to rag on the fact that the entire industry had ripped off Jack Benny. And this is what, when John Crosby would write these editorial review pieces, criticism pieces, that seemed to be very negative about Jack, but what he's actually, Crosby is so actually angry at was the fact that everybody in the world was ripping off Jack Benny.
I'm going to throw out something that might surprise the rest of you. First of all, let me say that, let me confess that I did a little bit of stand-up earlier in my life. And I learned that we all rip each other off. Milton Berle, was famous. We used to get kidded a lot by his fellow comics for stealing their material. But more than material, it's the style of performance. If you watch this closely, Johnny Carson was always doing Jack Benny. He did his takes, he did his timing. His whole career was an homage, as he himself often said,
yes,
to Jack Benny. But Jack Benny, as much as we all love him, was also not an original in the sense that he was influenced by vaudeville. He was influenced by Yiddish theater. We all learn from each other, and whether we do it intentionally or not, it's part of the business, but it was really great to watch Johnny Carson doing Jack Benny while Jack Benny was
yeah, for sure.
Terry, you're so right. What I learned, what Jack Benny started stealing everything from Frank Fay.
That's right.
So back in the early 20s, the reviewers would say, oh, here comes another Frank Fay imitator, Jack Benny. Right. And it was all about the quietness, the standing, because vaudeville comedians at the time tended to be more yuck,
yeah,
with crazy outfits and doing things. And so supposedly it was Frank Fay, and God, maybe Frank Fay is the one who started it all. But Frank Fay is an incredible jerk. So much nicer to have a Jack Benny.
But they all looked for that combination of being self-deprecating and going after somebody, and that was the balance.
But isn't that marvelous? That's how societies that have oral histories, thank goodness that we have recorded media so that we can go back and do this detective work.
Speaking of detective work, he transitions so smoothly. I did a little detective work to figure out some of the references in this episode, because there was a couple that I did not know. Well, one in particular, which was the $64,000 question reference. The $64,000 question was a game show, and each time you answered the question, the amount that you could win would double. And when you got to a certain point, they put you in this glass box, this isolation chamber, where the contestant could only hear the host and the question he was asking. And once he asked the question, he had 30 seconds to answer the question, or, he lost the $32,000 question or the $64,000 question. And actually, the first person ever to win, to get the $64,000, had just happened a couple of months earlier in September. This is from November of 1955. So, yeah, but when you see that image of him in the isolation booth, and it's just a spotlight on him and the rest of the studio is dark, yeah. And then I'll also mention quickly some of the other references. Here's one I looked up, I couldn't find anything on it. So if you have any information, that would help. They mentioned a publication called the TV Guide. I don't know what that is.
It was a rare publication that very few people got in the day. I don't know.
And then the other thing was they mentioned a movie that Jack made 12 years earlier. So I looked back, and it didn't seem like there was a movie 12 years earlier, but I assume they're talking about The Horn Blows at Midnight, because that's the movie that they're always joking about and making fun of, like a famous flop.
Which would have been like 8 or 9 years ago or something at the time, right? It wasn't 12.
Well, maybe 12 is a funnier number.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Jack always played with the numbers, which is interesting. I mean, it'd be like, 17 years, 16 years, and you're like, wait a minute, he was with him 22 years at this point, or, they're always off by a number of years. And I just think, it's like so they thought, I get it close.
And yet there was such a tradition in the Benny show of marking the anniversaries of these things. They've done it so long in radio. Oh, this is my 17th year.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with the writing and performance of the routine of Jack and Johnny.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the very best of the radio performances. Because, sometimes everybody's getting older and, you got to do the show every week. And sometimes it's just, as Jack said, just trying not to be lousy. But just the combination of beautiful timing on both their parts, sharp writing. Just, you say, one of those things I love about Jack, when he can go from being happy to angry, to, or jealous.
And Kathy, I'm glad you said that, because it also reminded me that these two performers really knew their characters. And of course, Johnny knew Jack, having watched him and studied him. And as we talked about before, written about him. And so in some ways, in addition to the great writing, they already had a lot of those moves, a lot of those instincts in them. They'd been rehearsing this performance for years already.
Well, can you imagine the pressure on Johnny? Because he's like, okay, I'm with my absolute idol, and so I got to pull off the most professional piece I can possibly do here. Anyway.
Yeah, considering that Jack Benny was Johnny Carson's idol, he doesn't seem nervous. So he's either the best actor in the world, or he's just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to watch this episode again, so let's get to it. Here is the episode from November 20th, 1955. Enjoy the show.
From Television City in Hollywood, the Jack Benny program with his special guest Johnny Carson, presented by Lucky Strike.
Light up, Lucky, it's light up time.
Be happy, go lucky, it's light up time.
For the taste that you like, light up a Lucky Strike. Relax, it's light up time.
There's a time and a place for everything. And the right time for a Lucky is any time you want to enjoy a great cigarette. And the right place for a Lucky is wherever you happen to be at the time. You'll always enjoy Lucky's because Lucky's taste better. Lucky Strike is made of fine, naturally good-tasting tobacco, and it's toasted to taste better, cleaner, fresher, smoother.
Yes, sir. Lucky's taste better. Anytime, anywhere. So right now, light up a Lucky. It's light up time. Enjoy the best tasting cigarette you ever smoked.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Lucky Strike program. Now, if my voice should give out any time during the show, that's because yesterday I went to the Coliseum to see the USC-UCLA football game. And that was really exciting. And I mean, there was such a crowd there, such excitement, and the betting that went on. And there was everybody was making bets, you know. I lost $3 myself. There was a pickpocket in the crowd. He got me as I was coming through the tunnel. But not only that, I must tell you what else happened to me. Finally, the usher took me to my seat. And out of 100,000 people, who do you think I was sitting next to? Dennis Day. That's all I needed. That kid drives me nuts, really. You know, he was supposed to be on my show today, but after what he did to me yesterday, I just couldn't take another half hour of it. You know, well, I'll tell you, the game had just got started, and Dennis handed me a hot dog. So I said, "Thank you, Dennis." I took a bite out of it, and a fellow sitting on the other side of me punched me in the nose. Dennis didn't tell me I was supposed to pass it. Finally, the gun went off. And Dennis says, "Goodbye, Mr. Benny. I'll see you tomorrow. Be careful driving home." I said, "I will, Dennis." I rushed out to beat the crowd, got in my car, and I was almost in Beverly Hills before I realized that the gunshot was only the end of the first half. You know why I can't have him around me, because he just... However, ladies and gentlemen, during rehearsal one day this week, I was coming in, and there's a young fella here who does his own show for CBS. And his name is Johnny Carson. Now, as a rule, I do not rave about other comedians. But this fellow has everything it takes to become a great success. And he's so young, too. Frightening. Anyway, I asked him, I said, "Johnny, as long as you're around here and you're rehearsing, would you mind coming on?" Because I love his work. Would you mind coming on, just saying hello to the folks in a few words? And here he is, Johnny Carson. You know, Johnny, I was just telling my audience how much I enjoy your work. And I think, in my opinion, you're going to be one of the real great comedians.
Well, thank you, Mr. Benny. You know, coming from you, that's a wonderful compliment. It means a lot. Because, you know, for years, you've been my idol.
Really?
Yes. No, I remember when you were in vaudeville, I used to save up, you know, pennies just so I could go down and watch your work. I'd sit up for hours in the gallery, and I admire the way that you'd hold the audience right in the palm of your hand, every minute.
Gee.
And I'd go home at night and even lie awake and wish that I could grow up to be just like you, Mr. Benny.
Well, you can call me Jack.
Thank you, Jack. And even when I watch you on television today, during your own shows, I know that I'm watching a genius, a master at work.
Well, now, wait a minute. Now that's a little bit embarrassing.
Well, then I won't go on.
Oh, no. You can go on. You know, you're my guest. You can say whatever you like.
Jack, I'll wait and tell you later when we're together.
All right. You know, Johnny, I meant to ask you one thing during rehearsal. How long have you been in show business?
2 years.
2 years. Gosh, that's amazing. I've been in it practically all my life. Well, you're certainly doing a wonderful job.
Well, thank you, Jack, and I want to tell you that I never miss one of your television shows.
You watch all of them?
Every single one of them.
Well, isn't that nice? Huh?
And Jack...
Mm-hmm.
Jack...
Yes?
would you mind if I made a few little suggestions? Well, in the nature of constructive criticism. You don't mind, do you?
No. I think constructive criticism is good for everybody, you know. How long did you say you were in show business?
2 years.
Well, Johnny, what are some of these criticisms?
Well, for one thing, Jack, and I'm sure this can easily be corrected.
Well, good.
One thing I noticed is your pace seems to be, a little off or something, not quite right. It seems, pacing seems a little slow.
I mean, you don't like my timing, huh?
Well, let me put it this way, Jack. It's all right to be slow, but you're sort of a lazy Perry Como.
Well, I think, comments like that, if they can further my career. And how long were you in show business?
2 years.
I mean, not 2 years and 6 months or 2 years and 3 months. Just
2 years.
2 years. Well, Johnny.
Now, another criticism.
Oh, is there more?
Yes. Jack, I'm kind of concerned with that long take you do at the audience.
You mean you don't like that after I tell a joke, the way I stare at the audience, is that it?
No. I always have the feeling that you're surprised they're still there.
I see.
Now, fortunately, that also can be easily corrected.
Oh, well, that's fine, then. Well, if you're through now...
Well, there is one more thing.
Well, then tell me. I mean, don't keep anything away from your idol. Out with it.
Well, as long as I'm being constructive, Jack, this I have to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may not realize this, but every move you make, your delivery, every little inflection that you have is exactly the way I work, and I don't think it's fair. See, you're staring again.
Now, listen to me, Mr. Carson.
Call me Johnny.
I'll call you anything. You've got a lot of nerve saying that I'm stealing your style. Everything I've done since I started in show business, 22 years ago. And if I were going to copy anybody, it wouldn't be an unfunny, untalented upstart like you.
Well,
now cut that! Johnny Carson, I came out here at the start of my show, didn't I? Yeah. Telling the audience what I thought of you, how wonderful
now,
you are.
Jack, wait a minute. Wait just a second. Remember when you asked me to be on your show?
Yeah.
You were the one who told me to do this routine so we could get some laughs.
Oh. I suggested that you insult...
When you called me 2 weeks ago, remember?
Oh, my goodness, I did. Oh, Johnny, I'm terribly sorry, really. But I don't know, you were so good, I thought you meant it. Wasn't he good? I thought he was. Well, Johnny, now that you were kind enough to come on my show, I'd like to have you do something by yourself.
Oh, that'd be fine, Jack.
Would you like to?
Maybe I could tell a little joke or something?
Oh, fine. And, Johnny, I want to say one more thing to you. You
Yes,
just
sir.
keep on improving the way you are. You're a very young fella, and it won't be long before you'll have your picture on the cover of TV Guide, like mine was on this week.
Mine was on 8 weeks ago. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy, that Jack invited me on his show down here. And, about this little routine we just did, we're kidding, of course. Because even though I've admired Jack for years, we worked nothing alike at all. Of course, Jack's, I will say this, I have to tell you, Jack's eyes are a little bluer than mine. And so's his age. But anyway, what I wanted to tell you is this.
Jack,
Jack,
before you go any further.
Oh, John!
Johnny, I didn't know it was you. I thought Jack Benny was still here.
Confuse you too?
Oh, Johnny, you certainly did. But, Johnny, you know, I must tell you the most exciting thing happened this morning. Gee, it just thrilled me to death.
Well, tell me, Don, tell me. What is it?
Well, Johnny, there was a long line of people lined up in front of a cigarette machine. Oh, there must have been 40 or 50 people there. And everybody who put money in that cigarette machine bought a package of Lucky Strike.
No.
Yes, Johnny, yes. And then you know what I did, Johnny? I went around and I asked each one of them individually why they smoked Lucky Strike, and every one of them said it's because Luckies are toasted to taste better. And Luckies are cleaner, fresher, and smoother.
I know.
And not only that, Johnny, but Luckies are round and firm and fully packed and free and easy on the draw.
Good. Is that all, Don?
Yeah, Johnny, that's all.
Well, Don, seriously, now, I do want to ask you one question. How long have you been working for Jack?
Well, now, let's see, Johnny. I've been with Jack since 1934.
1934?
Yeah.
Gee whiz. And Jack's been paying you for...
2 years.
Oh, 2. Let's go,
Gee, the show's been over for an hour. The boss is usually home before now. Hello?
Hello, Rochester. This is Don Wilson. May I speak to Mr. Benny?
Gee, the boss hasn't come from the studio yet.
Oh, he hasn't?
No, and I've got his dinner already.
Well, I'm sure he won't be long.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't want his Chateaubriand to get too well done.
Well, so Mr. Benny's going to have steak.
No, hamburger.
But, Rochester, you said Chateaubriand, and Briand means steak.
Not in this chateau. Is there any message, Mr. Wilson?
No, I'll see him tomorrow. Goodbye, Rochester.
Goodbye. Gee, it's 9 o'clock. He's never been this late before. I better go turn down the fire on this. Boss, I didn't hear you come in. I just turned the oven down.
Help me turn out the lights.
The lights?
Yeah.
What's the matter, boss? What's wrong?
Rochester, somebody's after me.
Oh, boss, you made that picture 12 years ago.
Rochester, I'm serious. I decided to walk back from the studio. It was getting dark. I turned back, and there was a fella with his overcoat collar turned up. And he was following me.
How do you know he was following you?
How do I know? Every time I looked back, he hid behind a tree, then he hid behind a bush. I even went down a dark alley. I still couldn't lose him.
Look, boss, you're getting yourself all worked up over nothing.
Oh.
You know, at nighttime, your imagination plays tricks with you. What you saw were just shadows.
Shadows?
Mm-hmm.
It could be my imagination. 'Cause I don't know, why would anybody want to hurt me? I'm such a sweet guy. Don't you think so, Rochester?
Uh-huh, and you're modest, you're kind, and you're considerate.
And I'm generous.
There goes your imagination again. Come on, boss, I've got your dinner already. Sit down, eat it.
Okay. Funny, Rochester, I should get all upset over nothing, I don't know.
Oh, there's nothing to worry about.
I guess not.
I'll turn the lights back on.
Okay.
Get a little bright around here. Everything's gonna be all right.
I hope so. Gosh, that was a wreck.
And while you're having your soup du jour, I'll go get your Chateaubriand.
Thank you, Pierre.
Et pas de quoi, monsieur.
Imagine my getting all worked up just over maybe some shadows. That's all they were, shadows. I thought somebody was following me. I get it, Rochester. Can it be the breeze that blows that in? Hello? Hello? Hello?
What's the matter, boss?
Rochester, I just answered the phone. The fellow who was on the other end hung up.
How do you know they hung up?
How do I know? I could hear the click. I distinctly heard the sound of a click.
Maybe they were using a phone booth and the sound you heard was the dropping of a dime.
Dropping of a dime. I've known that sound since I was 2 years old.
Look, don't get yourself all worked up. I'll go get you a sedative.
All right. If I only knew why they were following me, if I only knew what they wanted. Can't figure it out. Oh, threw a rock in the window. There's a note on it. Get out of town before it's too late. Get out of town. Just a note, no ticket. I'm going to call the police. Operator, hurry.
Number, please.
Operator, look at this is an emergency. Get me the police.
1 moment, please.
1 moment, please. 1 moment, please. It's always 1 moment.
Beverly Hills Police Department.
Oh, officer. Look, my life is in danger. Officer, I'm at 366 North Camden Drive. Rush right over, will you?
366 North Camden Drive.
Yes.
Who is this?
Jack Benny.
Gee, you sound just like Johnny Carson.
I don't care what I sound like. Now get over here. I'm going to worry about Johnny Carson now. Rochester, I thought you were going to get me a sedative. What took you so long?
Well, when I opened the medicine cabinet, there were 2 boxes with no labels on it. So to tell which pill was which, I took one of them.
Well, could you tell which was the sedative?
I must have. I fell asleep.
This is no time for jokes, Rochester. I'm in danger. I just called the police. Why aren't they here?
Look, boss, I'll fix you a drink.
I'll fix my own drink. Rochester, there's another rock. Right there.
Oh, there's a note on it, too.
Well, read it to me.
You have been told to get out of town. You now have 30 seconds to think it over.
30 seconds to think it over? Wait a minute. Wait, stop it! Stop it!
Boss, what's the matter?
What, the lights, the music.
What lights? What music? There goes your imagination again.
It's not mine. You just read the note, didn't you? Rochester, I'm telling you, somebody is after me. I know they are. Here come the police. The police are coming. The police. The police are coming. The police. Open the door.
Police?
We just caught the prowler outside, Mr. Benny.
You did?
My men will bring him in so you can make a formal complaint.
Well, hold him tight, will you? I know he's out to kill me.
It's all right, we got him under control. Bring him in, boys.
Dennis Day, you?
Hello, Mr. Benny.
You were the one that's been following me?
Uh-huh.
Making me a nervous wreck?
Uh-huh.
Dennis, why would you do this to me?
Because you wouldn't put me on your show today.
Is that an excuse for following me down dark alleys? For making a wreck out of me? Oh, boy, if I'd only known it was you.
I didn't want you to know it was me. That's why I always stayed a half a block away.
Half a block away, I could feel your breathing down the back of my neck.
I know.
You know? How could you breathe if you were a half a block away down my neck?
I had a long straw.
Now stop!
Shall we take him along with us, Mr. Benny?
What?
Shall we take him along with us?
No, leave him here.
Leave him here?
Yeah.
Gee, thanks, Mr. Benny. Come on, boys.
I don't know, Dennis. Boy, what you did to me today. I don't know. For years I've been lecturing to you. For years I've been talking to you. And I don't know. Nothing seems to help. Well, there's only one thing I can do. Rochester.
Coming out!
All right, Dennis. Take off your coat. Come on, take off your coat. Take off the other one. Now, come here. Come here.
Jack and Dennis will be back in just a minute. First, here's a word to cigarette smoking.
Light up a lucky.
It's light up time.
Be happy, go lucky.
It's light up time.
For the taste that you like, light up a lucky strike.
Relax.
It's light up time.
The end of a perfect date when you stop for a light snack and linger with your Luckies. Why Luckies? Well, that's easy. Luckies taste better. Naturally they do. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. And then this fine, good-tasting tobacco is toasted. It's toasted to taste even better. Cleaner, fresher, smoother. So next time you want to linger, light up a Lucky.
For the taste that you like, light up a lucky strike.
Right now.
Light up a lucky. It's light up time.
Dennis, you're really a silly kid, but I must say you put it over on me today.
Gosh, did I really?
You certainly did. Gosh, I don't know. Walking home in the dark like that, I don't know, I was frightened. I had such an eerie feeling, you know.
What was that, Mr. Benny?
I said walking home, I had such an eerie feeling.
Gee, that's the place where I was born.
Erie, Pennsylvania.
No, Feeling, West Virginia.
Dennis, the reason you raised such a devil because you wanted to be on my show. I nearly said something else, but the reason you... I get nervous at the end of the show, you know. Dennis, you wanted to sing a song, is that right?
That's right.
You wanted to sing?
Yes.
All right, I'm sure they...
I'd like to sing a song that was written by Sammy Kahn. It's called Love and Marriage. Mr. Benny, just to prove to you that my feelings weren't hurt, I wrote a special lyric, on the second chorus, and it's all about you.
Oh, the second chorus, Love and Marriage, dedicated to me.
That's right.
Oh, that's sweet.
Okay, Malin? Huh?
Sit down here.
Love and marriage, go together like a horse and carriage. This I'll tell you, brother, you can't have one without the other. Love and marriage, it's an institute you can't disparage. Ask the local gentry, and they will say it's elementary. Try to separate them, it's an illusion. Try, and you will only come to this conclusion. Love and marriage, go together like a horse and carriage. Dad was told by Mother, you can't have one, you can't have none, you can't have one without the other. Oh, this is the second chorus.
Oh, the one about me?
You. Yeah. I want you to hear it. Jack and money, Jack and money, go together like a bee and honey. This I'll tell you quickly. The thought of spending makes him sickly. Jack and money,
nice song about
Jack
me.
and money, go together just like gin and honey. You'd think that he'd be wiser instead of acting like a miser. Try to get a raise from him. It's like magic. Would he fire me instead? I would. You see, it's tragic, Mr. Benny, Mr. Benny. I won't ask you for another penny. I'm brother. I can't have one. I can't, no, we got to go.
You know, I had one line in the whole song and I forgot it. All it was, let me tell you, brother. Forgot the whole line. Oh, well. That comes from doing so much radio, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, I do want to thank Johnny Carson so much for being on the show. Johnny, come out and take a bow, will you? Ladies and gentlemen, incidentally, he does his own show on Thursday night on the same network. I'll be back with you 2 weeks from tonight. Another rock. There's a note on it. Oh, yes. Be sure and watch Ann Souther next Sunday. Thank you, and a happy Thanksgiving.
Appearing on tonight's program were Kim Dibbs and Chucky Bradley.